shooter, mass shooter, is always, was he mentally ill?
Right.
Deranged, loner, lone wolf. The Muslim killer is always a terrorist fueled by ideology. I always say, if you believe the view of Muslims presented by some in the media, we're immune to mental illness.
I want to show you two sets of headlines. This is first two New York Times headlines. We're going to put them up on screen. Headline on the left, terrorists strike Charlie Hebdo newspaper in Paris, leaving 12 dead. That's from a couple years ago. Headline on the right, in Christchurch, signs point to a gunman steeped in internet trolling. Another one, this is two Daily Mirror headlines. Headline on the left, ISIS maniac kills 50 in gay club. Headline on the right, angelic boy who grew into an evil far-right mass killer. It's just a different treatment of the people who do the crime.
Big time. And there's a islamophobia there. There's a white privilege there. Yes, ISIS killers don't get to be angelic boys, even though we assume some of them may have been angelic boys before they became ISIS killers. This is always this case of, the white shooter, mass shooter, is always, was he mentally ill?
Right.
Deranged, loner, lone wolf. The Muslim killer is always a terrorist fueled by ideology. I always say, if you believe the view of Muslims presented by some in the media, we're immune to mental illness. It's kind of cool.
Right.
We have some inbuilt immunity. We can't be mentally ill.
Right.
We're just kind of ideologues. But if you look at the coverage, Joy, the word terrorism is not used for people who are not Muslims. That's the problem. We've been conditioned to believe that a terrorist attack is only an attack carried out by a brown dude with a beard shouting something in Arabic.
Right.
When, of course, the statistics show otherwise. The ADL says that 3/4 of the terrorist deaths in the United States over the past decade were carried out by far-right domestic white nationalist terrorists. A quarter by Muslims. Can we say that the media coverage of terrorism in this country is 75% white nationalist, 25% Islamist jihadist? Not a good. In fact, Georgia State University did a study. They found that a Muslim terrorist gets 4.5 times as much coverage of his crime as a non-Muslim terrorist.
Right.
4.5 times.
Well, think about the killer in Las Vegas who gunned down hundreds of people.
It's hard to even remember him. He's gone.
It's
No
hard
one talks about him anymore.
No one talks about him.
Here's a statistic for you. The Georgia State guys found that a non-Muslim terrorist has to kill, on average, 7 people more than a Muslim terrorist to get equal coverage as a Muslim terrorist.
Yeah.
That's a hashtag media fail. And I'm always reminded of that old viral tweet that terrorism is one of the only areas where white people do most of the work and get none of the credit. And it's a real problem. But, it leads to racism, Islamophobia. It leads to fear on the part of communities of immigrants that, that's where the terrorism threat is, from brown people, from foreign people, not from the terrorism threat in our midst. Even when you have Dylan Roof shoot 9 people, kill 9 black people in a church.
And then get a nice meal of burgers.
Yeah,
fries.
Doesn't get charged with terrorism, doesn't get called a terrorist. Alex Fields killed Heather Heyer in Charlottesville, doesn't get called a terrorist, doesn't get charged with terrorism. Robert Bowers, who killed 11 Jewish worshippers in the synagogue last year, doesn't get charged with terrorism, doesn't get... Shooter is the word used in the headline, not terrorist. And look, I have a problem with the whole war on terror discourse to begin with, but let's be consistent.